Demon Claw TV are proud to present Kill Team. So this is the final match from the Wellington Kill Team League. This is the third league of the year, and I found myself playing the Goremongers with my Angels of Death team. So for this league, I built myself a new Angels of Death kill team. They are the Carcharadons, or for the really old, the Space Sharks. They're made up of a starter box set of models and a few extra assault intercessors, and I bought myself a box of 5, or a sprue of 5 tactical intercessors from eBay. This was lots of fun making them and painting them up, and I had a bit of a go at some tribal markings in line with the way they're portrayed in the novels and background material. I've got a captain, a sergeant of the intercessors, and a veteran sergeant of the assault intercessors. He's armed with a great big huge power weapon and his heavy bolt pistol. So trying to record kill team games is difficult. So here's a slide that shows everything that happened in turn 1. To quote Mountainside Tabletop, we moved up a bunch of guys. Everybody is not wanting to give away the first shot or the first vulnerability. In the right hand side, I repositioned my assault grenadier, and in this game I chose the captain and the heavy gunner. Previously I'd been using the assault intercessor sergeant and the eliminator sniper, but in this game I didn't see the Goremongers doing much hiding behind cover shooting, and the power fist of the captain with its 5/7 damage can two-shot a Goremonger even when they've got their strat ploy of take half damage from the first shot. So everybody's moving up. And here's what that looks like. Now I put down the razor wire. I chose that instead of the faction equipment of Auspex. Didn't think I really needed it. Again, didn't think the Goremongers would be hiding behind heavy cover doing stuff. In the big room on the left, the heavy gunner and an assault intercessor are advancing. I've got my big pack of 3 guys moving to control the central room. I moved my assault intercessor first. He moved up on conceal and yanked open the door, and the captain moved into the room and the gunner stayed there, and everybody moved up on guard to disincentivize as much as possible the Goremongers from coming into the room. Turn 2, the doorway of death. Turn 1 was totally peaceful. Turn 2 kicked off the violence. I think in this game I won initiative, and my assault intercessor moved from his position behind the door up to the door on the other side of the room with a quick move, dash, and go on guard. I changed his order to engage in case somebody did something when the door was opened, and I could have shot somebody rather than just fight them. The The aspirant who was on the other side of the door responded by yanking open the door and fighting the assault intercessor, who promptly chopped him up with his jeweler and aggressive and assault doctrine for a balanced, and because he was on guard, he got to strike first. The inciter, which had been lurking behind the pillar at the back of the Goremonger lines, did the shoot and spray and pray, dacker dash, whatever we want to call it, rolled dice at the assault intercessor and promptly rolled 3 crits and a hit. I mean, what you going to do? So that killed off the assault intercessor. The inciter then ran up and closed the door, and everybody else moved up a bit and piled into the room, and the heavy gunner and the intercessor gunner tapped the 2 objectives to turn the transmission on, and they were then in a position to camp on those objectives on guard until the end of the turn and score 2 for the Space Marines. During the counteract, the captain had moved up behind the door, which the inciter had closed, and the activation before last moved up or yanked open the door and punched the inciter in the face, just like this. The dice were a bit crazy. We're talking 5 crits from the captain to 3 crits and a hit from the inciter. Yeah, so there's no way to ignore getting punched once. So the captain just punched the inciter twice and flattened it. That left the Goremongers with 1 interaction, and the Blood Herald ran over and was forced to spend 2 combat actions to kill the captain, but was taken down to 2 HP, and as soon as the fight was over, the intercessor gunner took out the Blood Herald with a crack grenade. So that meant the losses were 3 Goremongers for 2 Space Marines, which is a bit ouchy, but could just about do that trade. Here's what things look like at the end of turn 2. There's a big gap showing a big lack of operatives in the middle of the table. There used to be 5 operatives there, and now there's none. Off to the right, you can't quite see the assault grenadier, who is lurking behind that doorway. The aspirant in the room next to the objective is lurking behind their barricade on conceal, so can't shoot them, but they can't do anything. The Marines are getting a little thin in the middle, having lost 2 operatives out of the contingent allocated to that room, so we'll need to do a bit of rebalancing, and you can having beaten off the first wave of Goremongers, we can see them up the top massing behind that wall. There's the Skull Claimer, the Ritualist, and maybe another aspirant. Got to be say, I forget the names of them. There's just a big angry person wielding a giant chain weapon. Yeah, the Goremonger player Alice did not take either the Piercer or the Stalker and replaced them with standard aspirants on the basis that on Into the Dark against Space Marines they weren't going to be particularly useful. In all honesty, the effectiveness of the shooting of the Inciter was surprising, and they're also surprisingly good in melee. 4 dice, 3/4 ceaseless, rending, who knows what magic words. But yeah, all very good. So I'm getting a bit short on operatives in that central room. And I need more people in there because I need to be controlling the hatches on the centre line. So my assault intercessor moved into the central room and stood behind the other door. The Goremongers began close that door to basically cut down options for fighting. And this turn we had no casualties whatsoever. The heavy gunner moved over and parked his giant 40mm base in a place where he could both control the hatch and camp on the objective for the transmission, getting a quite efficient score me 2 points. The intercessor gunner remained where he was, bleeped the button and went back on guard, and later on in the turn the grenadier snuck into the corner of the third room. His job had been to keep the Goremongers honest and make sure that they had to have at least one operative. Now, that move with the assault grenadier is a bit nothing because he's not quite close enough to get to the hatchway. He's not parked on the objective. I was a bit leery of moving closer to the door in the northwest of that room because the Skull Claimer was the last Goremonger operative to activate. I couldn't shoot the Goremonger on the objective because it was on conceal, hiding behind a barricade, and I could go up and get it, but that would have meant I would have worn a Skull Claimer. In the big room on the left, the Goremonger aspirant opened the door, snuck out and hid behind the barricade that they'd placed there. They were forced to place their barricade further back because I had gone first with equipment and had placed the barbed wire across there, and there has to be a 2-inch gap between equipment terrain pieces. It's why there's very difficult to put any equipment terrain pieces in the central room anywhere near the center line, because the number of places that are available is severely limited due to the presence of all the hatchways. Now the red side, which I had, I could have placed a barricade there, but again, I'm a Space Marine, and the Goremongers aren't really going to be trying to open the door and shoot at me. They're going to be opening the door and charging me, and the barricade's not going to do any good. In a practice game, I did try putting a minefield down against Goremongers, but all they do is run an aspirant over the top of the mines and then spend some blood to heal up. So unless you can make them do that in a turn when they're going to try and charge you, doesn't really do a lot. And that's the turn. At the end of the turn, when we've got everybody in their positions, as you can see, the Skull Claimer didn't want to try and do a very long range charge into the Assault Intercessor Grenadier, who would have been on guard and therefore would have gotten to fight first. So moved up to make sure I couldn't control the second or the central hatchway in the middle room. Down onto turn 4. So we do a noble sacrifice. So the Assault Intercessor Grenadier, it's time for them to earn their money. They moved up and sat on the objective that's in the the Goremongers' home objective, if you like. They then shot twice the aspirant who was hiding behind the barricade. As I'd expected, the Skull Claimer ran over to fight the Assault Intercessor Grenadier, and even though I wasn't on guard, he did well enough, and the Goremonger did badly enough by not rolling any crits that the Space Marine was able to handily, if painfully, kill off the Skull Claimer. He was at this point down to 5 wounds after taking 2 hits, and very handy use of Dueler to use a crit to parry 2 of the Skull Claimer's normals, meaning that was all he could take, and then slowly sawed up the Goremonger. The, what do we call it? The ritual guy, the guy with the ritualist with the ritual knife, then ran in and stabbed the Assault Intercessor Grenadier to death, and that dropped a confirmed kill marker, which he then sat on and used his newly gotten blood to have a 3rd APL to bleep the button. So that went a, more kill grade for the Space Marines, more, well, I guess the same number of points, because there was another kill confirm marker hiding behind the hatchway in the middle that the Goremongers could have scored, and that would have left them more points in the middle, because that's denying me controlling a hatchway than if they'd done it. But that was always the plan, was to do that. It was just the time. So the Space Marines lost a 3rd operative, but don't go up a kill grade because the 3rd Space Marine is free. The Intercessor Gunner bleeped the button and went on guard again in case there was any shenanigans. The Assault Intercessor hiding behind the door was quite happy to do that, control that one, and bleeped kept the door shut and went on guard. And over in the big room on the left, the aspirant charged the heavy intercessor gunner, and in 2 rounds of fighting got karate chopped to death. The intercessor gunner staggered off after that one, down to 6 hit points. So pretty good fight. Notice the intercessor heavy, intercessor heavy gunner didn't fire his heavy bolter once during the game. So he was just really there to be a big, giant, massive hit points. Although we don't really tell him that. Here we go. Yeah, it was such an exciting game. It's very hard to take photos. Thinking about it, things that I think were favourable to the Marines and helped them get their win. ITD gives you access to the guard action. Playing transmission requires spending an AP to activate it and be in control of it at the end of the turn, meaning the Goremongers had to allocate operatives to sit on objectives rather than fight. And if they wanted to guaranteeably hold an objective, they needed to allocate or be able to threaten having 2 Goremongers on an objective. So the only way the Goremongers would have captured that last objective was if their aspirant had managed to kill the intercessor heavy gunner and not die to a guard shot from, from the assault intercessor behind the door. Model placement allowed operatives to secure an objective and a hatch in the same turn. This was a good layout for security tac ops, and I chose the seize ground, which is the one that allows you to control hatches on into the dark. The previous game we were playing on a custom Vulcus map, the security tac ops were absolutely horrible options. The terrain was in places that made trying to seize it or control it terrible. The center point was a killing ground in the open, surrounded by overlooking terrain. So I ended up picking Overrun against what turned out to be an all Banshee team. But being able to control hatches is much easier. Being slightly outnumbered allowed frequent use of Wrath of Vengeance, and because I took the chapter relic, that was for free. So the play with the intercessor captain was a free Wrath of Vengeance, yank open the door and splat an operatives. Undesirable influences. There was almost nowhere to shoot for any distance due to the map being divided into 3 fully enclosed rooms. And as I found, getting incapacitated in a doorway allows the Goremongers to place the confirm kill marker on the other side of the door and then close it to make it much easier for them to score tac ops. It also dragged them to the same door that I wanted to control for my tac op, which cost me a tac op point in round 2 and round 3. So in the end, it was 18 to the Space Marines and 11 to the Goremongers. The Space Marines got 6 for the crit op and chose that as their primary, moving them to 9. They then got 4 for their tac op and 4 going up to 5 for the kill op. the Goremongers got 3 for the crit op, basically controlling 1 room for the required turns. They got 4 for their tac op, but only 2 for the crit op, and they took tac op as their primary, which moved them up to 11. So, with the blessings of the Emperor, this saw me taking out the league. Out of 20 players, the Carcharadons were the only team to go undefeated, with 3 wins and 2 draws. I think my first ever 2 draws in kill team, certainly in a kill team event. So that was it. A lot of fun. The kill team leagues are a good way to get games in with people that you wouldn't necessarily play. It's people from different parts of the city, different clubs, different experience levels. Being Swiss chess, it kind of sorts itself out where people float to the level of people of equal ability. So yeah, there'll be another one starting in a couple of months, and we'll see who wins that one.